I often say a lot of times fans seek affirmation, not information. You seek the information that, or the opinions that you agree with, that you want to hear. It's like in political conversations, like Republicans watch Fox News, Democrats watch CNN. I'm not a political person, but everybody knows that. You seek affirmation. Maybe I'm doing that with having Chris Hummer on the show because he's picking LSU to do the same damn thing that I am. Chris Hummer of CBS Sports is with us now. He's on Twitter at Chris_Hummer. Hey, man, how are you?
Doing well, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Happy to provide some affirmation to people in Baton Rouge.
Okay. Your piece up at CBS Sports, your bold prediction is that LSU loses week 1 against Clemson but wins the SEC, which is the exact same thing that I'm picking. How did you land on that?
I think I legitimately believe LSU is one of the 5 most talented teams in the country, with one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the country. But I think it's very difficult to bring in as many new pieces as LSU is in week 1 and have things flow smoothly. Throw in the fact that LSU's defensive line is among the best in the country, and I think LSU is still working out some kinks at tackle, especially. It puts LSU in a difficult position in week 1, but I think as the season goes along, as those new pieces begin to coalesce, as Garrett Nussmeier gets a little more used to his receivers, as that defense continues to coalesce under Blake Baker, I think things come together, and LSU is the team in the SEC I like best.
Who did you have them beating in the SEC championship game?
I had them over Georgia.
Okay.
I'm probably the only Austin resident that does not have Texas in the SEC title game, but I did pick them over Georgia.
Well, that's where we disagree because I do have them beating Texas in the SEC championship game, but it's going to be a fascinating season as it might play out. Why do you think the narrative around LSU, as you stated, most have them like as the 4th best team in the league? Why do you think that is? Maybe a better way to ask it, Chris, is that more doubting Brian Kelly's squad or more credit toward Texas, Georgia, Bama?
I think it's the precedent that Texas, Georgia, especially the last couple of years, have proven, and then I think Alabama kind of gets the benefit of the doubt after a weird season last year in year 1 under Kalen DeBoer, as opposed to Brian Kelly, who's yet to show the ability to compete at a national title level, at least at LSU. Obviously, did that plenty at Notre Dame in a previous time, and I think LSU's additions, while I believe are excellent, are still theoretical in a way because they haven't done it in an LSU uniform, and they haven't done it on that roster. And improvements by that defense are still theoretical. I mean, that was a unit last year that was around 90th nationally in yards allowed per play. I think it has a chance to be a top 40, top 30 unit this year, based on what I've heard about the defense. But it hasn't happened yet. So I think when you're picking nits and you're talking about Georgia and Texas, 2 teams that have been in regular contention for national championships the last couple of years, and Alabama, a team only 1 year removed from being in the playoff, they're in a different conversation, I think, at least in terms of top of mind conversations for people, as opposed to LSU, which has been less in the national spotlight the last couple of years.
You mentioned that LSU might be the most underlooked or overrated team. The flip side of it is, or underrated, I should say, you think that Texas is probably maybe the most overrated team? Why?
I actually, so before we came onto this, I was reviewing the article that I didn't put together. I only contributed to. I definitely did not pick Texas as my most overrated team. I don't really know why that.
You have a bone to pick with the editor, then.
Yeah, I actually do. I messaged him right before this call. I actually picked South Carolina as my most overrated team.
Okay. By the way, I got South Carolina 7-5, Chris. I mean, if you just want to trade notes, we could do that.
We are thinking on a similar.
This is like the Parent Trap, where the twins just trade places. You come host my show, I'll write for you. It's the same info.
Beautiful. I think my editors would probably be pretty happy with that. I don't know if your listeners would be as thrilled with the trade.
Depends who you ask.
But yeah, man. It's hard for me to right. It's weird to say that about South Carolina, top 10 quarterback in the country. Maybe best defensive player in the country in Dylan Stewart. I mean, Caleb Downs would be my number 1 pick, but he'd be in the top 5. 2 elite pieces, but they're just question marks at every other position on that roster for South Carolina. I think it's very difficult. They quietly had the best defense in the SEC last year, in my opinion. Certainly the best front 4, and they lost a ton from that side of the ball. I think the offense is going to have to take a really big step, and they didn't really invest in wide receiver in the transfer portal. Their biggest transfer portal addition at running back is likely not going to be able to play due to eligibility stuff. The offensive line still has questions. The schedule is always really difficult for South Carolina. Like, that's just a team that I think is much more likely to end up at 7-5 than they are at like 9-3 by the end of the season.
Chris Hummer is our guest. You can get him on Twitter at Chris_Hummer, CBS Sports, of course, and 24/7. Alabama's one that's in that mix that we talked about as well, right? The ones that sort of get the benefit of the doubt. Where do you fall on a projection for Kalen DeBoer in year 2?
I'm more bullish on this Alabama team than I was last year.
Man, we were doing so good, Chris.
Yeah. Well, I think it's twofold. One, I just think Ty Simpson's a better fit for Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb's offense than, I mean, obviously Ryan Grubb wasn't there last year, but than Jalen Milroe was last year. The high-end plays that you get from Jalen Milroe, the accuracy, like the athletic ability, the accuracy downfield, like that's like a 10 out of 10, right? But it's the getting the bus to the stop on time, right, when you're driving, that I think Jalen Milroe struggled with. Those short and intermediate passes, I think the consistency of the offense struggled because of that. And I think Ty Simpson will do a better job managing things in that way. I think that wide receiver room is considerably better than it was a season ago. And I think it's really defensively where Alabama, I feel much better about coming to the year. Like, that secondary was such a big question mark going into last year. I think it's going to be one of the best secondaries in the SEC this season. Yes, I do have some questions about where Alabama's pass rush comes from outside of LT Overton, but last year we didn't even know LT Overton would emerge, and we had nothing but questions about that group. I think the linebackers there are going to be some of the best in the SEC too. So, yeah, I mean, like, the SEC is a difficult schedule. Yeah, Ty Simpson has a lot to prove, but I think when you just kind of look at the board and how it shapes up for them, the depth chart, like, it's just in a better place than it was a season ago. And the talent is still top 5 in the country. And you put those two things together, and I think you have an Alabama team ready to be back in the playoffs.
Is there a team outside of that Georgia, Texas, Bama, LSU that you think could surprise and maybe make a playoff run like Tennessee did a season ago?
If I had to put my money on a team to do that and surprise people, it'd be A&M. I think A&M has just been ignored in the national conversation this offseason for whatever reason. And, I mean, they were, like a game away from being the SEC championship game last year. I think it's very dependent on what Marcel Reed can do. But talking to people around that program, both privately and publicly, like, they're very bullish on the offseason Marcel Reed's had. He needs to take a pretty significant step, but he'll have more help. That wide receiver room is considerably better than it was a season ago. They created almost no explosive plays. Then they brought in Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion, brought in a new tight end room almost completely. They'll have one of the better offensive lines in college football. And I think that unit is ready to take a step. And if that happens, like, I can certainly see A&M enter that mix. I think the other two teams I would think about in terms of a playoff spotlight in the SEC are Auburn and Florida, but they have a lot more to prove, in my opinion. So I'm not quite ready to pick them to go to the playoffs yet, but A&M is a team that I think is undervalued going into this year.
Chris, how many SEC teams do you think make the playoff this year?
I think it's 4. I think in this current system, 4 is probably the ceiling and the floor for one league. I mean, 4 is probably the ceiling and the floor for the SEC most years. I just think there's going to be 4 teams at 9-3 or better, maybe 5, and 4 of those teams get in just because of the strength of schedule that comes with the league and the reputation that does.
9-3 will be fascinating to see if a team gets there, right? Because last year, sort of that benchmark, that delineation point was 10-2. It'll be fascinating to see if we get to a point where a 9-3 team can earn an at-large bid. But pretty soon we're going to get to stop talking about it and actually get to go watch games and let it all play out. We're looking forward to that. Make sure you follow Chris on Twitter at Chris_Hummer, CBS Sports, and 24/7, of course. Hey, man, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.